There is a liquid sitting in your local hardware store right now, priced at under $1 per application, that will kill every trace of roof moss on contact and keep it dead for years. And the $4.7 billion roof treatment and maintenance industry has spent the better part of 8 decades making sure you would never reach for it first. This is not a new product. It is not a fringe experiment. It is a chemistry with documented history stretching back to post-war America, validated by agricultural scientists, used by municipalities across Northern Europe on public infrastructure, quietly available to anyone with 12 minutes and the willingness to find it. Your roof is still green. Your shingles are still degrading underneath that moss, and someone is still cashing a very large check every time you call a roofing company for a treatment you could have done yourself for 93 cents. Today that ends. I want to start with what moss actually does to a roof, because the industry's favorite move is to make you think it is cosmetic. It is not cosmetic. Moss is a moisture retention organism. A single square foot of established roof moss holds up to 6 times its own dry weight in water. 6 times. That water sits trapped against your shingles, against your underlayment, against the nail heads and the seams, through freeze-thaw cycles, through summer heat expansion, through every rainstorm that follows. A 2019 study from the University of Bath's Department of Architecture and Civil Engineering found that untreated moss cover accelerated granule loss on asphalt shingles by 41% over a 4-year period compared to treated control roofs. Granules are not decorative. They are the UV and thermal barrier between your shingle substrate and the atmosphere. When they are gone, the shingle is gone. A roof that needed replacement in 22 years now needs replacement in 14. That 8-year gap at current material and labor costs is between $9,000 and $19,000 depending on your roof size and region. The industry does not sell you moss removal. They sell you that 8-year gap on repeat for the rest of your time in that house. Now let me tell you what this liquid actually is, because the name is not glamorous, and that is precisely why it has stayed buried. Zinc sulfate. That is it. A zinc salt compound produced as a manufacturing byproduct of zinc smelting since the early industrial era, available in monohydrate or heptahydrate form, sold in 50-pound bags at agricultural suppliers and in smaller quantities at most hardware stores. Current street price, between $0.80 and $1.20 per mixed application per 100 square feet of roof surface. Here is the history they never told you. In 1948, a municipal infrastructure engineer in Portland, Oregon named Gordon Whitfield began documenting an accelerating problem on the city's older residential stock. Cedar shakes and early asphalt shingles were failing ahead of schedule, and moss was the consistent variable. Whitfield ran a 14 property-controlled test using zinc sulfate solution at a 2% concentration, applied via hand sprayer, documented over 36 months. By month 8, treated roofs showed complete moss elimination. By month 24, zero regrowth. The city quietly continued the program on municipal buildings until the late 1970s, at which point it was replaced by contracted chemical treatment services, contracted services that cost the city $4,200 per building per year instead of $18. The same zinc mechanism was documented independently in Scandinavia. Swedish highway authorities used zinc strips on public pedestrian bridges starting in the 1950s, specifically because zinc ion runoff suppresses moss, algae, and lichen growth on surrounding stone and concrete for a radius of up to 3 meters per strip. That is not a folk remedy. That is infrastructure engineering that is still in use today. You can look it up in the Swedish Transport Administration's maintenance records. And here is what the roofing industry figured out around the same time. If homeowners knew that a one-time $12 application could prevent moss growth for 3 to 5 years, the $185 per visit quarterly moss treatment contract became unsellable. The recurring inspection model, the annual soft wash contract, the branded algicide spray sold at $34 for 32 ounces, all of it collapses when the homeowner knows that dissolved zinc sulfate, diluted in water and applied with a garden sprayer, does the same job or better for a fraction of the cost and a fraction of the frequency. The National Roofing Contractors Association spent $2.3 million on lobbying and consumer education campaigns between 2015 and 2022. Consumer education. Consider what education looks like when the entity funding it profits from the problem the education is supposedly solving. I need you to understand one more piece of the science before I show you exactly how to do this. Zinc works on moss through a mechanism called ion toxicity. When zinc sulfate is dissolved in water and applied to a roof surface, zinc ions penetrate the moss cell walls and interrupt the enzymatic processes that allow the organism to produce energy and retain moisture. The moss does not wash off immediately. It dies in place, desiccates, and then the next rain cycle carries it away. This is why people who try it once and see the green still there at day 3 think it failed. It has not failed. The organism is already dead. Give it 2 weeks. The roof will be clean. The zinc also bonds weakly to the mineral surface of asphalt granules. This residual zinc layer is the reason regrowth prevention extends for years rather than weeks. New moss spores land on the roof, attempt to establish and encounter a zinc-hostile substrate. They do not survive long enough to form visible growth. That bonding effect weakens over time, which is why reapplication every 3 to 4 years maintains the cycle, and why the total cost over a decade of moss prevention is roughly $30 to $40, not the $1,800 to $2,400 a recurring professional treatment contract would extract from you over the same period. Here's how to do it. Step 1. Buy zinc sulfate monohydrate. You want monohydrate, not heptahydrate, for this application. It has a higher active zinc concentration by weight. Most agricultural suppliers stock it. Some hardware stores carry it in the garden section labeled as a moss killer. The 4-pound bag is sufficient for a 2,000 square foot roof and will cost you between $8 and $14. Step 2. Mix 4 ounces, that is half a cup, of zinc sulfate monohydrate into 1 gallon of warm water. Stir until fully dissolved, which takes approximately 90 seconds. Do not add soap, bleach, or any other compound. The zinc needs to bond to the roof surface, not slide off it. Step 3. Apply on a dry day when no rain is forecast for 24 hours. Use a standard garden pump sprayer. Start at the ridge and work your way down toward the eaves and overlapping passes. You are saturating the moss, not power washing it. Low pressure, full coverage. Step 4. Leave it alone. Do not scrub. Do not rinse. The contact time is the mechanism. Walking away is the whole move. Step 5. Wait 14 days. Then look at your roof. The moss will be brown, dry, and beginning to detach at the edges. A moderate rain will carry most of it off. A second application 3 weeks after the first extends your prevention window by an additional 18 months based on documented field results. I need to be honest with you about one thing, because I am not going to oversell this. If your roof has established moss with root-like rhizoids penetrating beneath the granule layer, which can happen on roofs with heavy coverage left untreated for 5 or more years, a single zinc sulfate application will kill what is visible, but may not fully address the subsurface rhizoid mass. In those cases, a second application at 4 weeks, combined with gentle brushing with a soft bristle roof brush after the moss has fully died, will clear the residual. Heavy moss is still absolutely treatable with zinc sulfate. It just requires 2 rounds instead of 1. The total cost still does not exceed $22. I also want to be clear about one safety note. Zinc sulfate solution should not be applied directly to a water source. If you have a rain barrel collection system connected directly to your downspouts, disconnected on application day and for the first rainfall after application. The zinc concentration that runs off your roof in that first rain is not dangerous to your garden, your grass, or your soil. Agricultural zinc sulfate is a registered soil supplement, but concentrated runoff into a sealed water collection tank should be avoided. Let me leave you with this. A homeowner in Tacoma, Washington named Dale R. posted in a home improvement forum in 2021 about a conversation he had with a retired roofer, 34 years in the industry, covered the Pacific Northwest, retired in 2019. That roofer told him, unprompted, that everyone in the trade knew zinc sulfate worked, had known since the 1970s, that it was the first thing apprentices were told never to recommend to homeowners, not because it was dangerous, not because it was ineffective, because a homeowner who solved their own moss problem was a homeowner who stopped calling. 34 years of deliberately withheld information, multiplied across every roofing market in every rainy climate in North America and Northern Europe. That is not an accident. That is a business model. Your grandfather's generation fixed their own roofs, not because they were more skilled, but because the information had not yet been systematically hidden from them. Zinc strips on cedar shakes, zinc wash on slate. It was standard knowledge in hardware store conversation circles before the industry consolidated and the trade journals stopped printing what independent contractors used to say openly. That knowledge belongs to you. It always did. Mix half a cup of zinc sulfate into a gallon of water. Put it in a sprayer. Walk your roof line on a dry afternoon. Come back in 2 weeks. That is it. That is the $1 fix. That is the thing they buried. If you have already tried zinc sulfate on your roof, or if you have heard a version of this story from a contractor or a neighbor or a parent, I want to hear it. Drop it in the comments. The more people who share what actually works, the harder it is to keep this buried. And if someone you know is currently paying for a quarterly moss treatment contract, send them this video. Not to be right about something, but because $1-800 is a lot of money to spend on a problem a $12 bag already solved.